One of the first things we did as a people, as a nation, was sing. Just 7 days after we became a nation, we became a people, the Jewish people broke out in song, and a song that is so significant that we repeat it and sing it every single morning, just as we did this morning as well. What we want to address is, how did around 3 million people sing exactly the same song? They didn't have the lyrics prepared in advance with sheets given out to all of them to be able to follow. How is it that you have 2 or 3 million people at least who all sing the same song? So on this there is a sugya in Gemara. There's a whole discussion in Gemara in Masechta Sotah, which many sitting here finished learning not long ago, a few weeks ago. And towards the end of Masechta Sotah, Daf Lamed, the Gemara presents 3 different opinions. Let's see it inside. Sotah Daf Lamed Amud Beis. Tanu Rabbanon. The rabbis learnt, Boi Bayoim Darash Rabbi Akiva. On that day, Rabbi Akiva expounded. Which day? The Gemara doesn't say Boi Bayoim, but we'll soon see Rashi's explanation. But it was a particular day that Rabbi Akiva expounded. When the Jewish people came out of the Yam, of the sea, they placed their eyes, they decided that they want to sing. But how did they say shira? Says Rabbi Akiva, Godel hamakres hahalel vehin oinin acharov. Like an adult who reads the Hallel and the congregation responds after him. Roshei Prokim, by the head of the chapter. We'll soon see what that means. Moshe Omar, Moshe says, Ashir Lashem, Vehi Noimrim Ashir Lashem. Moshe Omar ki goy go, Vehi Noimrim Ashir Lashem. What Rabbi Akiva is saying here is, this is based on another Gemara in Masechta Sukkah, Daf Lamed Ches. The Gemara discusses the way that Hallel used to be recited. Remember that in the days of the Mishnah and of the Gemara, Sidurim, texts to daven, were not readily available. Certainly not available like they were today. Not everybody knew the davening by heart, and certainly not everybody knew the Hallel by heart. What used to happen was there was a gadol, there was an adult, and he was makres ha'Hallel. He would say the whole Hallel out loud, and the congregation would listen to him during the days when Hallel is to be recited, whether it's Rosh Chodesh, whether it's Chanukah, whether it's the Yom Tovim when we say Hallel. But they wouldn't repeat after him. They would listen, but there was a chorus, a refrain that they would keep on repeating. This is what the Gemara means, Roshei Prakim. So for example, he would say the bracha, they would say Amen. He would say Hallelujah, Hallelujah, Avdei Hashem, Hallelujah, Shem Hashem, and everybody would scream Hallelujah. Yehi Shem Hashem Averich Mata V'Adoylam, Hallelujah. You see, some people got it from somewhere. Me Mizrach Shemesh Ad Mevoyim Hulul Shem Hashem, Hallelujah. And so the Hallel went. He said the whole Hallel, and really they could just listen, and there's a concept called Shemaya Ka'ina. The one who listens, it's like he's saying it, and they would fulfill the obligation. But they wanted to be part of it. So after every phrase of Hallel is divided into phrases. After every phrase, they kept on screaming, the whole congregation together, Hallelujah. That's how it went. According to Rashi's Pshat, the beginning of every chapter, the first phrase, they recited as a chorus the first words of that chapter, Rosh Hashanah. And then they went back to Hallelujah. So for example, B'tzeis Yisrael Mitzrayim Beis Yaakov Ma'amloyes, they said B'tzeis Yisrael Mitzrayim. And then they went back, Ha'isa Yehuda L'kotche Yisrael Ma'am Shaloisav, Hallelujah. Yom Rav Ayom Etzayad Nisev Lacher, Hallelujah. Harim Raktu Chelim Goyes Kivnei Tzayin, Hallelujah. You get the way it was done. Rabbi Akiva says this is how the shira took place. Kegodel hamakres ha'Hallel, an adult who reads the Hallel. The Jews didn't say the whole shira. Moshe is the only one who said the whole shira. So it went like this. Az Yasher Moshe Uvnei Yisrael Sashira Azois Lashem Vayemru Leimar. At that time, Moshe and the Jewish people sang the song. So the pasuk clearly says Moshe Ubnei Yisrael. Moshe is not a Jew. Moshe was also a Jew. Could have said Az Yashiru Bnei Yisrael. Of course, the Torah wants to say that Moshe had a special role in the song. He wasn't just one of the singers. He had a special role in the shir. What was his role? Comes Rabbi Akiva said it's not only he had a role, he is the only one who sang the whole shir. Moshe Omer Ashir Lashem. And the whole Jewish community, the whole Klal Yisrael screams out Ashira Lashem, and so it goes. Ki Goiga Ashira Lashem. Suz v'roich v'ramavayam Ashira Lashem. Azi v'zimras kava hili lishua Ashira Lashem. Zekeli v'anveyu Ashira Lashem. All the way till the end. Hashem yimlech lo'ilam vad Ashira Lashem. That's how it took place. Rabbi Eliezer b'noish Rabbi Yossi Aglili Omer. Rabbi Eliezer, the son of Rabbi Yossi Aglili, who was actually a student of Rabbi Akiva, says, Kikoton hamakres ahalel. It was like a child, a minor who reads the Hallel. Kol masho oimer. The congregation repeats every word that the child says. As the Gemara explains in Sukkah de Lamed Ches, I referenced above, when an adult says the Hallel, essentially everybody could just listen and fulfill their obligation because he is obligated in the Hallel, and they are obligated to, they just listen to him. However, if you only have a child saying the Hallel, so the child is not obligated in Hallel, he's before Bar Mitzvah, so as a result of that, just by listening to him, they cannot fulfill the Mitzvah because only somebody who's obligated in the Mitzvah can include you in the mitzvah and fulfill the mitzvah. You can fulfill the mitzvah through listening to that person. So what happens if there's only a child to say the Hallel? You repeat phrase after phrase. Says Rabbi Eliezer, the son of Rabbi Akiva, that's how the Shira happened. Moshe Amar Ashira Lashem, V'hei Noimrim Ashira Lashem. Moshe said Ashira Lashem, they repeat it. Moshe Amar Ki Goi Go, V'hei Noimrim Ki Goi Go, not Ashira Lashem. Moshe was the leader, but they followed. They said the whole shira after him. Every verse was said by them after him. Suz v'roich v'ramavayam, suz v'roich v'ramavayam. Zekeli v'anveyu, lekeli v'animenu, zekeli v'anveyu. And so till the end they repeated word for word. After each phrase that Moshe said, they repeated. He was the leader who inspired afterwards a repetition. Reb Nechmyah says, another student of Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Nechmyah were both students of Rabbi Akiva. Kisoifer, they lived in the 2nd century after the Common Era. This is the generation. Rabbi Akiva, of course, lived in the generation after the Churban of Bayis Sheni and was a witness and even a participant in the rebellion of Bar Kochva against Rome, which took place around 60 years after Churban Bayis Sheni, approximately 50, 60 years after Churban Bayis Sheni, and they were students of Rabbi Akiva. So the students here have a different opinion than their Rebbe. Rabbi Nechmyah says, Kisoifer hapoides al shma bebeis haknesses. The situation was like a school teacher. A sofer is a school teacher, a malamed, who leads the blessings before Shema in the shul. Shehu poiseyach tchila. He opens up the davening, the brachas, the blessings, and they follow after him. Rabbi Nechmyah has a completely different opinion. It's like a chazan, like a cantor in shul, like a shliach tzibur in shul. What happens? The shliach tzibur takes says Baruch Hu, and then it says Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam Yotzei Roid Over Chayshach, and then the community takes over, the congregation takes over. Says Rabbi Nechmyah, that's what happened here. Moshe Rabbeinu opened up the shira. Moshe Rabbeinu said, Ashira Lashem Ki Goi Go. But then Moshe was silent, and then the whole Klal Yisrael said the whole shira on their own. How did they do this? Let's see a moment in Rashi. Rashi explains the Gemara. Zokt Rashi. And then with the Gemaras will still continue. We're going to learn Rashi, then we're going to go back to the Gemara. Says Rashi, the second Rashi, Gadol HaMakre Sahalo. You see? Makreu Litzibur Loitzin Yidei Chevason. The adult reads Hallel to include everybody. V'heinoin in achar of Rosh Prakim Hallelujah. Shu Rosh HaParsha. Al Kol Dover Shu Oimer Oin in achar of Hallelujah. Why is Hallelujah called Rosh Prakim? Because that's the beginning of Hallel. Everything he says, they say Hallelujah. The Tanam b'Masechta Sukkah. Mishaya Evedai Ishay Katan Makroisai. Hu Oin Acharei in Mashem Oimnim V'Mhaya Gadol Makroisai in achar of Hallelujah. Rashi quotes the Gemara in Sukkah. If it was a servant or a woman or a minor who is not obligated in Hallel, you have to repeat. If it's a gadol, you don't have to repeat, you just say Hallelujah. Says Reb Nechmyah is Sofer. Sofer is Malamet Tinoikis, a teacher. How does a Sofer come to be Peiris al Shema? So Rashi tells us a fact. V'utadir bebeis haknesses. The old schools, where did they take place? The schools were in shuls. I guess it was easier on the mortgage. So the schools were all in shuls, right? This existed even not long ago. Before the war, there were many, I think maybe a lot of schools that were in shuls, in Batei Medrash. So therefore, who's always in shul? The school teacher. So Medaf HaChazan, when there's a minyan, so who goes? So the school teacher was often the Chazan. So Peiris al Shema la'asar anayadim, he begins. The Shema, the lessons before Shema for the 10 people who came together to daven. Peiris Loshen Prois HaChag, Lifnei HaChag. The Mishnah in Shkolim, the Gemara in Shkolim before the Chag. In other words, Maschel bebrachas shelefnei kriya Shema. He's not saying the Shema with them; it's the blessings before Shema, the 2 blessings. Yoitzer oren avasay lamaftanu vehein oinen acher of a kulon v'koiden kulon yachad. And they respond after him, and they all read the davening together. They're not repeating phrase by phrase after him, right? He's not saying. Everybody says Lakel Baruch Nemes Yiteinu. Nor are they just saying the chorus like Rabbi Akiva says. That everybody's davening together. V'koyin kulan yachad. V'kach. What's bothering Rashi now? According to the first 2 opinions, we know how they all could sing the same song. And according to Rabbi Akiva, it was very simple. They didn't have to learn the song. They just had to learn 2 words. Like in camp, Ashir el Hashem, and they were just screaming Ashir el Hashem, Gevaldik. According to Rabbi Eliezer, the son of Rabbi Akiva, they're just repeating after Rabbi Akiva. According to Rabbi Nechmyah, how did 3 million people get to sing the same song? Zok Rashi, V'kach shor ruach hakodesh al kulam v'kivnu yachad as Ashira kekasma. There was a ruach hakodesh, a divine inspiration that befell, that dwelled, Sharsa dwelled upon all of them, so that together they were mechaven, they were synchronized, their minds were synchronized to say together the shira, the song, just as it's been transcribed in the Torah. Frag the Gemara, the obvious question, we have to argue about everything. Why are they arguing? What's the argument? Where did they get this argument from? B'mai kamifligi, this is the Gemara in Saita Daf Lamed Amud Beis. What's the argument? What are they arguing about? Says the Gemara, Rabbi Akiva savar leimer amilsa kamaisa. The problem here is one word. As usual, it's always one word. Oz Yashir Moshe Bnei Yisrael as Ashira Hazois Lashem. Moshe and the Jewish people sang a song to Hashem. Vayoimru, and they said, leimer. What's leimer? Vayoimru, they said, Ashira Lashem Kigoygo. What's leimer? Now let's understand. Leimer is a word used throughout the Torah, constantly. Vayomer Hashem el Moshe, leimer. Vayedaber Hashem el Moshe, leimer. Over there, the leimer has a clear meaning. Vayedaber Hashem el Moshe, Hashem spoke to Moshe, leimer, to be said, to be repeated. In fact, if he would not say leimer, Moshe would not be allowed to repeat it. It's a private conversation. Vayedaber Hashem al Moshe, I'm telling this to you, Moshe, leimer, to be said over, to be repeated. Clearly. So Moshe has a duty and an obligation to repeat the message, the commandment, the instruction to his people. Here, we can't explain the leimer in that term. It says, Oz Yashir Moshe Bnei Yisrael, Es Hashira Hazois Lashem. Vayomru, they said leimer, to be repeated. By whom? They are singing. It says all the Jews are singing. Who's going to repeat it? Here's the problem. So from this, the Tanoim understood that the Torah is trying to teach us the way it was done. How was it done? So Rabbi Akiva says, I'll explain to you how it was done. Leimer amilsa kamais. The word leimer goes on the next words, on the first words. Vayoimru, they said, leimer. They repeated which words? Ashir el Hashem. That's what the Torah means. So who does the singing? Moshe Rabbeinu. That's why he specified. Az Yashem Moshe. He does the song. Vayoimru, they all say. Lamer, they repeat. Lamer, they will repeat. What will they repeat? Ashir el Hashem, Milsa Kamaisa, the next words. The Lamer goes on the following words. Ashir el Hashem. That was their participation in the Shira. 2 words throughout the whole song. Ashir el Hashem, Ashir el Hashem, Ashir el Hashem. Rabbi Eliezer ben Rabbi Yosef Aglili Savar comes to Rabbi Eliezer and says, no, I disagree. Lamer al kol milsa milsa. The lamer should be applied to every single phrase of the Shira. Lamer, they repeated. But what did they repeat? Ashir el Hashem, ki goy go, sus v'roich v'ramavayom, aziv v'zimruska, v'ahil l'shua, zekeli v'anveyu, Hashem ishmulcham, everything they repeated. Of course there was a lamer. They repeated. It was to be repeated after him. But what? Akol milso milsa, not just the first words. They didn't just have a chorus that they kept on repeating. They repeated phrase after phrase. Reb Nechmyah Savar comes Reb Nechmyah and says, I disagree. Vayoimru, the amur kulu ba'adi adodi. Before it says lamer, it says vayoimru. They said it. Doesn't just say lamer. They is not Moshe. Az Yashem Moshe v'nei also shiraz Lashem. Vayoimru, they said. What did they say? He says they all said together the entire Shira. So what's the lamer? They did repeat. It's lamer the pasach Moshe bereisha. They repeated in the sense they waited for Moshe to open. Like the Chazan. The Chazan's Baruch Atah, and then everyone goes. The Chazan sets the course. But then everyone takes over on their own, including Moshe. But Moshe now was just a participant of the Jewish people. It doesn't mean that Moshe was quiet afterwards, but Moshe was not saying it louder than anybody else. So Vayoimru, they said the whole Shira. Lamer, repeating after Moshe's beginning. Az Yashem Moshe, Moshe began. Reb Nechmyah says also Moshe began. Lamer, it says Lamer. But once Moshe began, Ashir el Hashem, they got the go-ahead and they took off on their own. That's the argument, how you understand the 2 words, Vayoimru Lamer, Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Eliezer, the son of Rabbi Yosef Aglili, and Reb Nechmyah. Clear? Okay. Ganz klar, yeah? Okay, then the Gemara brings 2 famous drushes. Let's see, Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis taught. Darish Rabbi Yosef Aglili. Rabbi Yosef Aglili himself taught. This is Rabbi Yosef Aglili, the father of Rabbi Eliezer. How did they say Shira? An infant is lay on the knees of his mother, and an infant is a little baby is nursing from the mother's breasts. Kivan shero es hashchine oil ligbiat savar v'tinek shamadad mepiv amru zakeli vanveyu shnerim pi oil limiyankim yisadatois. But they observed the divine presence. So the oil, the young boy, lifted up his neck. The infant removed his mouth from nursing, and they all declared zakeli vanveyu. Reb Meir goes even more. Reb Meir proves that even the ubrim, the fetuses in the womb of their mother, also said shira, as the Gemara continues. Okay, Zok Rashi, Lamer, according to Rabbi Akiva, Amilsa Kamaisakai. Sha'oinin Tamid Ashir el Hashem. They kept on saying the 2 words Ashir el Hashem. Reb Nechmyah Savar, Vayoimru Amoishu Bnei Yisrael Kari. Everybody, they all said, Umashma the Amr Kulu Ba'adi Adadi. They all were equal in saying it together. Lamer the Pasach Moshe Bereisha, Hachi Kamar. Vayoimru Kulam Achar Shenirshu Lamer Dahainu Achar Shapasach Chacham. Vayoimru, when did they all say the Shira? Lamer, after they were allowed to say, because the Chacham, the sage, the leader, Moshe Rabbeinu, opened it up. Now, we want to raise a simple question. What is the Svaras HaMachlokes? The Gemara says, B'maika mifligi, why are they arguing? Because they all interpreted the word lamer in a different way. Rabbi Akiva in one way, Rabbi Eliezer in a second way, Rabbi Nechmyah in a third way. But Hagufa Shaila, that itself is a question. Why are they arguing? You can interpret lamer that we understand. You can interpret lamer like Rabbi Akiva. You can explain it like Rabbi Eliezer. You can explain it like Rabbi Nechmyah. What is the logic behind the argument? We understand there are 3 ways in which you can explain Vayoimru Lamer. Why does one embrace this view? Another embraces this view, another embraces it. Now, usually when we learn Gemara, there's so much arguments, we don't stop to ask, what's behind the B'mai Kamiflagi? Okay, there's an argument, shine. But if you were in the position, and you had to explain this pasuk, as we are this morning, which one would you embrace? Why did Rabbi Akiva embrace this view? Why did Rabbi Eliezer the other view? Why did Rabbi Nechmyah the other view? So the Gemara says they argue, but what was the logic? In other words, or to put it differently, whenever there's an argument in Shas, so the Gemara says he learns the pasuk like this and he learns the pasuk like this. Why taka? Why couldn't he learn the pasuk the other way and he learned the pasuk the other way? So it's not just a stubborn argument. This is what Leimer means and that's it. There's a view, there's a perspective, there's a philosophy, there's a hashkafa, there's an idea being conveyed. There's a depth in every single argument in the whole Torah. There's a mahalach, there's a perspective. There's three different perspectives, and that's why he sees in the Leimer something else. It doesn't begin just, we're arguing about a word that lends itself to different interpretations, but we just have to argue almost for argument's sake. Chalila. There's three different perspectives. Because there's three different perspectives, so when I look at the pasuk, I see the pasuk in a certain way. You look at the pasuk, you see it in a certain way. A third person looks at the pasuk, they see it in a certain way. And when anybody delves in deeply, into Shas, into Medrash, into Bavli, into Yerushalmi, this is really where one can see so much of the depth and the majesty and the beauty and the sweetness of Torah to really understand the oimek, what is behind the hashkafa that's being conveyed in any subject, whether it's in halacha or it is in, as in this case, in Agada. So that's number one. The other question is to quote a Gemara, a phrase in Gemara in Masechta Yuma, in the beginning, Daf Hey, and other places. Mai dahava hava. Why are you arguing? What was? What's the ramifications of this argument? What's the ramifications? If somebody wants to make a film, a documentary of Kriyas Yamsuf, so they have to know how to make it? Nobody was making documentaries then. What are they arguing about? The Gemara has this expression in Yuma Daf Hey Amid Beis. Mai dahava hava. What was? If it's an argument, la halacha, what you have to do, fine. Shiras Hayam is not something we're going to reenact with Moshe Rabbeinu. It happened by Kriyas Yamsuf. So stam to argue in the Pshat, l'maynaf gemina. What are the ramifications of it? A third question is, according to Rabbi Nechmyah, why does Moshe begin? According to Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva, Moshe, of course, has to begin. According to Rabbi Akiva, he's the only one who knows the song, so he does it on his own. They're just repeating a Shir El Hashem. According to Rabbi Eliezer, the son of Rabbi Yossi Aglili, he is the one who is teaching them the song, and they're repeating phrase by phrase after him. According to Rabbi Nechmyah, as Rashi says, they all had their minds synchronized to sing the same Shira. Still, Moshe, according to everybody, has to begin the Shira. So it says in the pasuk, Az Yashir Moshe Uvnei Yisrael, as Ashira Hazois Lashem, so Moshe is identified independently of the Jewish people. That's why Rabbi Nechmyah says he began. But what's the teichen? What's the understanding that Moshe had to begin, even though Moshe would not be the one who's leading the shira, because they're all saying the same shira? What we want to discover today is, Be'ezer Hashem, that what seems to be a very technical argument, really an extremely technical argument, of how the shira was done. It's the same text, it's the same nusach, it's the same words. The question is just what was the role of Moshe and what was the role of the Jewish people, is really a profound disagreement, or I should say, since Elu Ve'elu Divrei Elokim Chaim, a profound meditation on the role of a leader. What is the nature of true leadership, of true hanhaga? Whether it comes to Moshe Rabbeinu, the quintessential leader, but really, as we will see, every type of leader, small or large, a leader on themselves, a leader in their own family, a leader in their own community, a leader in their own job, in their own organization, in their own movement, whatever it may be. And the ability of a leader to inspire and affect the people who are connected to this leader. Let's begin, let's see the Or HaChaim's words on the Shir. The fascinating and very beautiful, inspiring Or HaChaim. On the first pasuk. He is bothered by an obvious grammatical problem. Oz Yashir Moshe Vnei Yisrael Hashira Azois Lashem Vayoimru Leimer. They all speak. What are the next words? Ashira Lashem. Grammatically, it should have said No Shira Lashem. Let us sing. Now, according to Rabbi Akiva, he is the only one saying it. You could even understand the Ashira Lashem perhaps, even though they're all repeating it. According to Rabbi Eliezer, they're all saying it, but perhaps you can explain the Ashira because they're still repeating after Moshe. According to Rabbi Nechmyah, it becomes really difficult because they're all singing it, so it should be Nashira Lashem. And really, even according to the other two, it would make more sense to have the plural rather than the singular, like in the beginning, Vayoimru Leimer. This is what's bothering the Erechai. Zog the Erechai, Vayoimru Leimer Ashira. Pirush, Amru Zela Ze Leimer. Vayoimru Leimer is, they said to each other, Vayoimru, they said to each other, Leimer, Pirush, what's Leimer? Lamer Zogin Ashira Lashem. Vayoimru Leimer Ashira, they said to each other, come, let's say Ashira Lashem. That's the pshat. Pirush, Sheyoimru Shira Yachat. Let's say the Shira together. Beloi Bechinas Ishtanus V'Hafrada. Without any differences, without any changes between us, without any separation between us. Until we become like one person. Hagam heyoisam rabim, even though they were many. Nonetheless, Ashira, let's sing as though we were one. V'niskavnu yachad, they put their minds together, v'asuken, and this is what they did. V'amru Ashira lashin yachid, that's why they say Ashira in the singular, I will sing. Ki'ilu heim ish echad, as though it's one person, it's 3 million people, but it's really one person. Shazulazeh, if not for this, they would have said, let us sing. Says the Rachayim, there was a special meditation here. Vayoimru Leimer, they said to each other, Leimer, let us say, oh Shira, I will sing to Hashem. Can we create a situation where all the differences between us, and there are many differences between us, somehow melt away, and we become together like one voice, literally one voice. And because it's one voice, so therefore we could say, I will sing. There's millions of people here, but it's one I. We find the common denominator in us, the inspiring thread that combines us all, unites us all, literally like one, what they call today in biology, a superorganism. You have ants, you can have hundreds of thousands of ants, lahavdil, in one colony who work together in perfect synchronization, literally 100, and no one knows how does it happen. Not 10 and not 40, hundreds of thousands. People who have verbal skills and profound intelligence skills. It's hard to get 10 people to work together. It's hard to get 2 people to work together. You all know it. Sinish Pashat, right? Especially by it's 3 Jews, 19 opinions. Shalom Aleichem, Aleichem Shalom. And here you have ants, and they're programmed to work together and to be able to communicate. How they communicate it, they do it through chemical sense, whatever they do it. So they call it a superorganism, meaning it's one mitzias, but hundreds of thousands together. So the Rechaim says this miracle happened by Kriyas Yamsuf. Ashvayoimru Leimer, Ashira Lashem. Let's create a unity to the point that it's I'm singing. I'm singing. It reminds me, they say a story. It's a beautiful story. I guess it's a metaphor. That the animals got jealous of the human race that has all of these types of awards for people who do well. Whether it's Tony Awards, Grammy Awards, Olympics, where people can exercise and demonstrate their skills and receive worldwide recognition. So the animals decided they're also going to have such a summit, and everybody is going to have an opportunity to let themselves be heard. And the one who has the voice that is the loudest and resonates the furthest, that animal will receive the trophy and be designated as the king. So hundreds and thousands of animals came on the designated day, and everybody began testing for their voices. And the way they did it was they were near the ocean, and there were alligators set up, and they made a pact with the alligators that whichever alligator hears the voice should lift itself up from the water, and you would see how many rows of alligators are lifting themselves up. You'd see how loud and far the voice resonates. So everybody did their spiel, their performance, and then finally the lion came, the Melech Shebechayis, the king of the jungle, and he let out a roar, as a lion knows how to let out a roar. And hundreds of alligators, 200-300 alligators, lifted up their bodies, and it was obvious that he won. He received a trophy, and Shalom al Yisrael, and he went home happy. As they say, the one who was supposed to win won, and all was good. The nightingale bird comes over to the one in charge on the whole matzav and says, "It's not fair. I didn't get a chance to sing. You ignored me." Says, "Listen, you little bird, there's no way you're competing with the lion. Well, you'll have your little squeaky, cute bird voice. It's not competing with the lion's roar that shakes up the whole world. The Aryeh Shog, Mila Yira. The lion roars, who will not fear, as the pasuk says." He says, "No, justice is justice. You said everybody can test. I want to test." He says, "You're right." He goes to the lion. He says, "Adoni HaMelech, Your Majesty, I need back the trophy. The nightingale didn't have a chance to perform. We have to give him a chance to perform." So he starts laughing and mocking. Listen, let him do his thing. He'll make a fool out of himself. He'll embarrass himself. You'll get your trophy afterwards. The nightingale gets up. The first thing is he lifts himself up from the ground 10, 20, 30 feet. He's in the air. The nightingale bird is in the air and starts singing. In the beginning, the singing is very low. But suddenly people hear a very loud voice, beautiful nightingales sing very nicely that resonate. One alligator, another alligator, 100 alligators, 200, 300, as much as the lion, 301. He won the lion. He triumphed. It was very embarrassing for the lion, but they took the trophy and they gave it to the nightingale. The lion comes over to the nightingale and he says, "Yol Medeinu Rabbeinu, maybe you can explain to me this enigma. How did this happen that your voice resonated far more than my voice?" So he says, "Let me explain to you. We nightingales around the forest are very vulnerable. So we have an old pact, we have an old covenant. And that is that when one sings, everyone else joins. And we know each other's melody. We know the melody." He says, "When I started to sing, they all joined me. And we know the melody so well, and it's so synchronized, that all the voices sound like one voice. But it's not my voice. It's all of our voices together. And therefore it became so loud and resonant because when you have hundreds and hundreds or thousands of nightingales singing, it will trump the loud voice of any lion." That's what it was. So the metaphor of the story is, when you think about the Jewish people, so sometimes it's like the Gemara, the Medrash says it's a wolf. It's a lamb between 70 wolves. And the lion has a roaring voice. But if Vayoimru Leimer Ashira, if the nightingale can join with the other nightingales and sing one voice because they know each other's voice, they know each other's song, they know each other's harmony, and they can harmonize together to create one song, Ashir Hashem, then that is far deeper and louder than any other melody. That's one way of explaining, I think, this Arachayim, what happened at that moment of Kriyas Yamsuf. Okay. So what do we see from this Arachayim? That this was a unique moment where their nation galvanized and literally harmonized together as one superorganism, as one person. Now, let's go to the words, Boy Bayoim Darash Rabbi Akiva. That day, Rabbi Akiva explained it. What was that day? What was that day? So Rashi says, Soitach of Zayin Amid Beis, is a few pages earlier in the Mishnah. The Mishnah already quotes the argument between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Nechmyah. The Gemara then adds the third opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. So the Mishnah says, Boy Bayom Zakt Rashi. B'Masechta Brachas Dav Chav Ches Amrinan. The Chol Heiche the Tani Boy Bayom. Wherever it says Boy Bayom, throughout Shas, Hu Yoim Shoyishivu Es Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah L'Nesius. It's the day Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah became the leader of the Jewish people. The leader of the Sanhedrin. Shenisrabu Talmidim, Shenitnu Rishus Likones, Lekoil, Shahoyrim Gamliel Omer, Kol Talmud Chacham, Shen Teichi Kabari, El Yikones, Lebeis HaMedrash, V'Rab Satorah, Boy Beyoim, V'Lo Yis HaLocha, Tluya Bebeis HaMedrash, Shaloi Pirshua. Rashi is referring here to the story in Gemara and Brachas. Daf Chavches, Rabbi Gamliel was the leader of the Sanhedrin, the president of, so to speak, the Supreme Court, the 71 members of the Supreme Court that was responsible for the Jewish people, spiritually and halachically, legally. And this was the generation of transition. It was a difficult generation in Yavne, post-Churban Bayis Sheni. Rabbi Gamliel was the leader, and the sages decided to dethrone Rabbi Gamliel. They felt he was unsuitable, the way he treated Rabbi Yeshua, and other things that gathered up over the years. And who did they appoint instead of him? The whole story there. They finally appointed a young 18-year-old Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah. And that's why we say in the Haggadah, Amar Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah, Arei Anika ben Shivim Shana, that day, Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah becomes the leader, and a new policy emerged. Rabbi Gamliel had a guard in the Beis Medrash, and he said, whoever ain't toiche kabari, his inside is not like his outside, he can't go into the Beis Medrash. It's interesting to understand how a guard would be able to determine that. That's a separate question. But once Rabbi Gamliel was dethroned and Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah came in, there was a new policy. The doors were open for everybody. And the Gemara says in Brachas, Torah increased that day. There was not a single halacha that remained suspended in the yeshiva that they didn't explain. And the Gemara goes through a whole sugya. And ultimately, Rabbi Gamliel comes back, and there is a dual leadership between Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah. He says 3 Shabbos in the Shir. Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah says 1 Shabbos. Says Rashi, whenever it says in Shas, Boy B'yom, that day, it was this day. It was this day. So the debate of Rabbi Akiva, his 2 students, Rabbi Nechmyah, Rabbi Eliezer, the son of Rabbi Yossi Aglili, not to confuse with Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah, this is the day that Rabbi Gamliel was removed and a new leader emerged. A new leader with different perspective, with different policies, with a different arrangement. The Gemara says Rabbi Gamliel felt very bad, and he had a dream to console him, but really the dream was just to console him that his policy was right. Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah was really right to open the doors of the Beis Medrash. The Gemara says that day, the cheers in the Beis Medrash were increased either by 400 or by 800. Because so many new students were allowed into the yeshiva that were never allowed for a long time under the jurisdiction of Rabbi Gamliel. I once was in a shul, and a speaker got up to speak, and when he got up to speak, half the shul left. So he gets up, he says, now I understand the Gemara. That day there were many new cheers in the Beis Medrash. He said that day there were many new people in the Beis Medrash. He says, but sometimes a person gets up to give a shir, and there's many new cheers in the Beis Medrash. Not many new people in the Beis Medrash. So this is interesting now. We have here a clue that this whole argument happened when? On the day a new leader was appointed. That day this argument took place. So you could say, yeah, a lot of things took place. Rashi says every halacha, so many halachas they dealt with. But when we examine what halachas they dealt with, they're somehow all connected to something connected to that day. What we can appreciate here is that the argument between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Nechmyah has to do with leadership. What is a leader? Moshe is the quintessential leader. To quote Rashi in Parshas Chukas, a beautiful, beautiful Rashi, Rashi says that in Torah, Moshe and Yisrael are interchangeable. It says Vayishlach Moshe Malachim, and then it says Vayishlach Yisrael Malachim. Moshe sends messengers to Sicha, and the Jews send messengers to Sicha. So Rashi says, Moshe hu Yisrael, Yisrael he Moshe. Loi malacha shenasi hador hu kechol hador ki anasi hu hakoil. That's the quote of Rashi. The leader of the generation embodies the generation. He is hakoil. He embodies the generation. Moshe is the Jew is Moshe. The Rambam says in Hilchos Malachim, Leiv hamelech hu leiv kol kahal Yisrael. The heart of the king is the heart of the entire Klal Yisrael. The leader literally has his finger on the pulse, feeling the heartbeat of his people, and that's why we say Moshe Yisrael Yisrael Moshe. So Moshe is the quintessential leader, like Kam Navi Ka Moshe. He's the Roya Yisrael. He's the ultimate shepherd of the Jewish people. What happens at the Shira is As Yasher Moshe of Bnei Yisrael. Moshe leads the Jewish people in song. How does he lead them in song? 3 opinions. Rabbi Akiva describes a situation which we can call in English with one word: submission, in a positive sense, loyalty complete dedication. Meaning, a situation in which Moshe inspires a whole generation, and a generation of difficult people. Because these are people who have been enslaved for decades. They have been tortured, abused, oppressed, and suffered terribly. They were argumentative, confrontational. Every Monday and Thursday there would be another rebellion against Moshe Rabbeinu. Already a few days after Yetzias Mitzrayim, they wanted to know, why did you take us out to kill us here? In the beginning of Parshas B'Shalach, Nitno Rosh, let's just go back. This was a lofty generation, a Dor Deya, the Medrash says, the only generation that experienced Hashem face to face. But nonetheless, very challenging in so many ways. Perhaps their greatness was also made them very challenging. Kol hagadol mechaveri, like the Gemara says, greatness comes with a price. So Moshe Rabbeinu is now inspiring this entire generation to surrender their individual egos, to transcend their differences, and to submit their identity to submit their individual differences to the collective identity embodied by the leader. Moshe Rabbeinu alone sings the song of the entire nation, and in that song, he manages to uplift the entire nation. Vayomru leimor Ashira. It's one song of one people represented by one man, Moshe. The Shach, the Sifsei Koyin, the Pshapsi Koyin, Katz al HaTorah here, says, as Yoshem Moshe Bnei Sol, that all the neshamas of the Jewish people were included in Moshe Rabbeinu. He was what you call a neshama klolis, a collective soul that encompasses the whole superorganism. It's like the brain in a person, which has the central nervous system and all the limbs and the organs are synchronized under the single brain. Moshe is the neshama klolis that doesn't repress, but encompasses, uplifts, and actualizes the true ultimate spiritual identity of the people. So from 3 million people in Moshe, they find their true unity, their true oneness, their truest depth. They find their singular source. Since Moshe is an Eved Hashem, he's a conduit for Hashem, who is the source of all and every individual. So in Moshe, everybody finds that point where they nullify their ego to become part of the collective Knesset Yisrael, the divine energy which encompasses and includes them all. So Vayomru leimor, enough. Oh, Shira Lasha. And that's an extraordinary moment in our history, and it demonstrates the extraordinary power of a great leader who can inspire that sense of unity, that sense of achdus, cohesiveness, harmony in a people who naturally everyone is fragmented and everybody is out for myself, because on a superficial level, I am I and you are you, and what is the connection? I fend for myself, you fend for yourself. Moshe Rabbeinu in his selflessness can elicit the selflessness in the people and demonstrate to them their core, the Pinta Layid, the Nekudas Hayadus, the core soul, which connects everybody together, in which they have one vision, in which they embody one unity, in which they have one destiny, in which they march together and they say, Ashir al Hashem. That's Rabbi Akiva's definition of leadership. Moshe embodies the vision of song, the gratitude to Hashem, the vision of their future as Hashem's people, as he describes in the Shira. The people, therefore, have nothing further to say as individuals. What do? They simply affirm their unanimous dedication and assent to that which Moshe is expressing. Moshe marches, Moshe sings, and the nation declares like one, yes, I'm in. Yes, we're in. Moshe, go. We're right behind you. You go and we're right behind you. Ashir al Hashem, ki go, Ashir al Hashem, Ashir al Hashem. He's doing the song and they're simply saying Amen. They're affirming what Moshe is saying. The song is represented by Moshe. All they are is, we're part of this. We affirm it, we consent to it, we embrace it. This represents us as well. One vision of leadership. Rabbi Eliezer, the son of Rabbi Yosef Haglili, argues. He says, in the Hashkafe, he maintains a different position. What he's saying is, the phenomenon of 2 or 3 million, I keep on saying 2 or 3 million because it's not clear. You have 600,000 males between 20 and 60. But then you have males under 20 and above 60. So probably at least double. You have women, you have children, and so on and so forth. So it's probably 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 million, but a few million. So the vision of a few million people inspired to yield a single vision and surrender and submit to a single leader and demonstrate such loyalty will usually not endure. In other words, it's electrifying, it's majestic, it's transcendental, it's transformative, but it's short-lived, and therefore in the long run it's meaningless. Because as long as you can capture the sense of Ashira in this one man of Moshe, who's really a man of God and can inspire that in the people, it's beautiful. But the moment that stops and people, so to speak, go back and find themselves, that oneness, that cohesiveness is gone. If we can compare it lahavdil, and it's not the same experience, but I just want to give an illustration. Sometimes you'll have a concert. Sometimes you'll have a speech, a shiur, a lecture. Sometimes you'll have a musical experience or any type of gathering of people. And somebody manages to bring thousands of people together, crying together, laughing together, feeling together, giving together, learning together, celebrating together. They become one entity, like mamash, a congealed entity embodied by somebody who manages to bring that out from the people. It's very powerful beyond words. But at some point, the lights go off and everybody goes home. It's short-lived. Sooner or later, their intrinsic differences and counter aims will emerge, and the unity will cease. So Rabbi Eliezer comes along and says that the model employed by the Shira and the right model for leadership has to be different. Moshe did not inspire loyalty or submission, as powerful as that is. Moshe created followers. He created Talmudim, he created students. He created students rather than loyalists. They didn't just say, Ashir Hashem, and you say what you want to say. We're just in. They actually repeated word for word what he was saying. His words became their words. His words were internalized into their heart. Each verse that came out of Moshe's lips then became their own verse. They didn't just suffice with a unique affirmation of Moshe articulating the song of the Jewish people. Moshe sings the song, and I'm just part of Moshe. That's not what happened. Rabbi Akiva says that's the greatest unity. Moshe sings the song, I'm part of Moshe's song. Rabbi Eliezer says that's not the case. They weren't just affirming Moshe's song of the Jewish people. They repeated the song after him. In other words, they had to run through the psukim of the Shira, through the sieve, if I could say, through the filter of their own understanding, their own feelings. They had to find the roots of an identical declaration in their own personality and experience. They had to find the roots of what Moshe was saying within themselves. They had to discover this shira within themselves, within their mind, within their soul, within their heart. So the very same words assumed 2 million or 3 million nuances of meaning. They were absorbed by millions of different minds. They were articulated by millions of different mouths. Yes, they all articulated the same message. That's the power of the Shira. That was the uniqueness of Moshe Rabbeinu. He created a generation of pupils, of students, who listened to the song and repeated the song. They integrated the song into their lives. This is the model of leadership. Reb Nechmyah disagrees. Why does Reb Nechmyah disagree? Reb Nechmyah says this type of leadership is meaningful as long as the teacher is here to teach. As long as the mentor is present to inspire his disciples to create not only loyalists, but students, it works. As long as the teacher is communicating his song, his passion, his vision of what you are, what you can be, what our journey is, what our destiny is, it's incredible because the students can follow suit after the mentor, after the leader. What happens when the captain of the ship disappears? What happens when the teacher is silenced? What happens when the conductor is no longer directing the symphony. As long as the conductor is there, the conductor gives the symphony, each one, every one is playing a different instrument, but they're united by a song, by a vision, represented by the conductor. So if you ever watched, if a conductor, imagine, did you ever notice at a symphony the conductor steht, der läuft, der springt, der hackt, but he doesn't do anything. He doesn't even say a word, right? He doesn't say a word. So get rid of him. Get rid of him. But the truth is, for a few minutes it would be nice. After that, we'll give him a churban. Because in a very powerful way, the conductor embodies the symphony. Without saying a word, he somehow keeps everybody on track. He gives the vision, the marching orders. They're playing the song, but he's there to direct it. But when the conductor is gone, so now you have hundreds and hundreds of people, and everybody starts playing a different song. So Rabbi Nechmyah says, there goes the Ashira. There's no hope for Ashira anymore. There's nothing to repeat anymore. Does it come to an end? So Rabbi Nechmyah tells us something beautifully and profound. He says as follows. If Moshe really articulates and brings out the quintessence, the nekuda, the pintala, the neshama of a Jew, if Moshe really represents not a superimposed force that represses you, but he brings out the ultimate song in each soul, then, as a real leader, he shows people how they can find that song within themselves. They don't have to hear the song from his lips before they could sing it on their own. In other words, the great leader is the one who shows his people how to find the song themselves within their own hearts and within their own minds. So what Nechmyah says what happened was, Moshe had to start the song. Moshe pronounces the opening words of the song. He shows the goal, he marks the destination, he, so to speak, begins the march. But following that, each and every Jew sings the entire song himself or herself. Moshe, in other words, inspires not only submission and loyalty, like Rabbi Akiva, nor does he even inspire only followers, students, and disciples. He inspires leadership. Moshe Rabbeinu knows how to kindle the spark within each and every person so that they on their own can continue his song. If you are really articulating the pnimiyas, the inner chords of the person, if you're helping him or her express that, then what the true leader does is show how you can find that song within yourself without repeating it after Moshe. So in other words, what we have here essentially is there are three types of leaders. There are leaders who create loyalists. There are leaders, Rabbi say, who create followers. And there are leaders who create leaders. So you have three types of leaders throughout Jewish history. Three types of rebbes. Three types of mentors, teachers, shepherds, Roy Yisrael, tzaddikim. Three types. And each one has a unique and extraordinary energy and calling and advantage. One type of rebbe, one type of leader manages to create a certain sense of loyalty. Different types of people find themselves in this person. They melt not because of, I'm not talking about coercion or dictatorship or tyranny or threats. That's not leadership. That's called tyranny. We're not talking about that. That's a whole separate sugya. You know, Fidel Castro used to force people listening to this. He'd speak for 6-7 hours. We would know, well, how do people listen to a drasha for 6-7 hours? People don't listen today for 3 minutes. LMI, if you know, it's better than death. So you listen to a speech for 7 hours, right? I'm not talking about tyranny. I'm talking about people who inspire. They inspire cohesiveness. Why? There were Jews, they saw a holiness in a person, a lack of ego. And everybody found their edelkeit. They found their own depth in that person. That person represented a vision of God for them. A real leader. Shchina, so to speak, like it says by Moshe on his level, there was no ego there. Hanasi hu hakoil, hamelech liboich Shol Kali, so the Gemara says in Brachas that it's interesting. Every Jew by Shemona Esrei, you bow down in the beginning and at the end. Baruch Atah, and then Hashem, you stand up. Hamelech, zog the Gemara in Brachas, Lamadalit, I think. Kivan Shekara, Shuvei Nezoikif. A king is davening Shemona Esrei. He says Baruch Atah, and he stays down till the end of Shemona Esrei. And if it's Alang Shemona Esrei, he gets a good workout. So you understand, everyone is standing and shaking, and he's down. If you want, you could do something to him also at the time. That's maybe one reason. But another reason is, precisely the king, because he's a king, so he needs to bow down more than everybody else. Because if ego gets involved in his life, he becomes a dangerous person. So there's a Rebbe, there's a leader in which Klal Yisrael find their own harmony, their own synchronization, the nekuda of Ayid, the nekuda of Yiddishkeit, and there's a very deep loyalty, a very deep affection, a very deep commitment. That's what Rabbi Akiva's model is. There's a second type of Rebbe who doesn't only create loyalty, he creates real disciples, Talmudim, who get it, who understand it, who will repeat it, who internalize it. Your message, the message of the leader, of the teacher, of the mentor, becomes their message. It becomes their message as long as they can hear the message from that person. That's what a real student is, a real follower is. And then there's Reb Nechmyah, from the word Nechama, from the word Tanchumin, from the word comfort, solace, Nechama. Yinachamenu, Nechmyah. And what's his vision of leadership? He says a real leader creates not loyalists and not students. He creates leaders who are independent. Leaders who become leaders to others. The greatest leader is not the one who needs people repeating what he says under his shadow. He gives them the wings to fly far away, completely independent of him. And yet, what are they giving? He showed them. He started off, but he said, this is you. This is not about me. This is about you. If you look deep, deep into yourself, you will be able to find the same song that I will sing. And you will be able to see that ultimately our song is the same if we can go deep into ourselves and find our own Ruach HaKodesh. That's a whole different type of leadership. It's a whole different type of unity. Because this is not a unity that's not only when the leader is present, it's a unity that's so deep that everybody can ultimately find that unity within themselves. So I want to tell you an experience I once had. I think, by the way, it represents also three types of parents. Many of us sitting in this room try to educate children every day. Or they try to educate us. I don't know which way it is in your house. What type of parent are you? So I'm not talking about a parent who leads their home like a tyrant. Maybe that's another option, but I'm not going there at the moment. What type of parent are you? There's the view of Rabbi Akiva, there's the view of Rabbi Eliezer, there's the view of Rabbi Nechmyah. And I don't think it's mutually exclusive. Like we always say, Elu v'elu divrei Elokim chayim. Leadership has different moments. Leadership has different moments and requires different tnuas. And I think parenthood as well. There's a parent who leads very, very strongly and has a strong presence, so to speak, like the king in the house or the queen in the house, whether it's the queen ant or the queen bee or whatever it is, runs the show. And everyone is loyal. How they do it is interesting, whether biyad chazaka, b'zroya netuya, whether through the 10 makas or whether through kriyas yamsuf. That depends on the situation, but that's one model of parenthood. Another model of parenthood is that it's not just I create a certain loyalty and surrender and submission in the home, but rather there is a situation where things are explained, things could be internalized by the children, and so forth. But essentially, what the children are taught to do is follow. And then there is a parent who actually knows how to create autonomy, meaning inculcate the values that you hold dear into the hearts of your child, that even when you're not there, supervising, scrutinizing, commanding, giving penalties, giving rewards, it became their own thing. You had them find the song within themselves, so that even when you're not there, it's still there. So I had an experience once. I was invited to speak to Beis Yaakov of Ger, to all the teachers of Beis Yaakov of Ger, which is I think on 50th Street in Borough Park. right? So I go in a few minutes before, and I meet the principal. Her name is Mrs. Werdiger. This is a few years ago. And I asked her, as I ask every principal before I speak to the school, what is your mission statement for this school? What are you, was willst du auftan? What's your prize Talmida? What's the product you want? I just want to understand, what's your vision? So she says, Rabbi Jacobson, I couldn't care less what happens in this school. I'm like, wow, you're a great principal. This is a wonderful message. She says, I'm honest. I don't care what happens in this school. I'm like, you're telling this to me? You're inviting me to speak, and then you tell me you don't care? Why do you have this job? You should, if you really don't care what's happening in the school, I don't think you should be a principal. Maybe, go into real estate, go into the stock market. Why go into education if you really don't care? She says, no, you don't understand what I'm saying. You asked me what my mission statement for this school is. My mission statement is that I don't care what happens in this school. So I was a little dumbfounded and confused. So she explained to me what she meant, and I still remember it. She said as follows, as a principal, you can get very caught up in what happens at this moment. This girl was misbehaving in class, they send her into the office, and I have to discipline her, chastise her, get her straight. Another girl, we're having this issue. This one is failing all of her tests. This one is being chutzpahdik. This one is breaking all the rules. This one is violating, whatever it is. And I can get caught up and get upset and, okay, this one has to be disciplined. And I'm going to create a situation that everything looks perfect. She says, I always think about one question. Graduation is soon going to come. They're going to graduate high school. They're going to wear the nice, what are they called? Graduation, what do you wear? Huh? The gowns. There's going to be a beautiful presentation with good sushi and great speeches and wonderful yearbooks. And my students are going to leave the building for the last time. And they're going to kiss the mezuzah and go out and go home with their mothers and look back. She says many of them will never ever walk into this building again in their life. Some of them, maybe if they didn't hate it too much, will send their daughters here one day. And what I think is about that day. When they leave the building, I can't discipline them, I can't chastise them, I can't scream at anybody, I can't warn anybody, I can't reward anybody. What did they really go away with that became theirs when nobody is here to say anything? So I tell you, my mission statement is never to get caught up what's happening in this building, but always to think what happens the day after. Acharei, the day after, what happens? What did they really take away with them? And I thought that was a very profound idea because it reminded me what Rashi says, Bahaloisches Haneris. So Rashi says, it doesn't say Bahadlikcha, Shetehei Shalheves Oila Me'eleha. The flame has to go up on its own. I can hold a match by the wick and it's burning. You do it Chanukah, but then you take away the match and there's no fire. Shetehei Shalheves Oila Me'eleha means the flame has to burn on its own. Sometimes people think, what's education? I take the match, I hold it by the wick, and I say, burn, burn, burn. Has gedavent? Has gehört Kriyas HaTorah? No. And he's here, the boy is here, the girl is here, they're doing everything right. Only one issue. One day they're going to become 16 years old. And you won't be able to hold a match at the wick the whole time. What's left? Shetehei Shalheves Oila Me'eleha. Reb Nechmyah says even generations when Moshe Rabbeinu is not here, a real leader created leaders. He inspired the wick to be able to burn on its own. It's a whole different experience. Where do you see this clearly? A story in Mishnayos. You read the story, it's very perplexing. Extremely perplexing, and it seems so cold. But I think this is mamish what the Mishnah is saying. And it's rare to have such a story in Mishnayos, such a dramatic story. Take a look, your last source, Masechta Ediyos, Perek Hey, Mishnah Vav and Zayin. This is a Mishnah. It's not even a Gemara, it's a Mishnah. The Mishnah talks about the man named Akiva ben Mahala. Akiva ben Mahala was one of the great Tanoim in the generation of Hillel HaZaken, a century before Churban Bayis Sheni. We all know him from Pirkei Avos, where he says, look at three things and you won't come to an Aveir. Akiva ben Mahala was the genius of the generation. But he argued heavily with the Chazal, with the sages of his generation, to the point that they banned him. So the Gemara, the Mishnah, Akiva ben Mahala heid arba dvar. He testified about 4 halachas that all of the sages disagreed with. Amru loy, and it was serious stuff. The Mishnah goes through dinim of soita, dinim of tumah, different fundamental halachas of the time. Amru loy, they said to him, Akavya chazor b'cha barba dvarim shayisa omer v'nascha av bezdin liyisrael. What do you say about this offer? Akavya b'mahalal, take back your 4 positions, and we turn you into the Av Bezdin. You become the head of... Now, this is not an Av Bezdin in a little community. This is the times of Hillel HaZokin. You have here the Av Bezdin means essentially the leader of the Jewish people. Amar lahem, you know what he tells them? Listen to words. Mutav lili kares shaita kol yamai v'lei asis sha'achas rosh lifnei amakim shaloyimnu b'shlo shrara chazabai. I'd rather be called a fool for the rest of my life rather than to become for one moment a rasha, in other words, an immoral person who changes his position simply because of power, because of an invitation for power. B'shas nisasai, he's about to die, to pass away. Amar libnoi, Akavya turns to his son. The Mishnah says, B'ni, chazor b'cha barba dvarim shayisi omer. You could go back on the 4 things that I used to say. You don't have to hold on to my position. You could follow the Chazal. Amaloi, ata you, lamaloi chazarta b'cha. What is this? Do what I do what I say and not what I do. You're telling me to do one thing and why didn't you regret it? Amaloi, he says, Ani shamati mipi amerubin vehem sham mipi amerubin. We all had rebbes. My opinion I heard from many of the sages who are not here anymore. They heard their opinion from many of the sages. Ani amadati b'shmuasi ve'enamdu b'shmuasan. I maintained what I heard, that position. They maintained what they heard. You only heard it from your father. Your father is one, versus all the other sages are many. You follow the majority of the sages rather than the one sage, your father. This tells you a little bit about who Akavya b'Mahalal is. He will be banned, he will reject Av Bezdin, he's not going to maintain, he's not going to change his position. His son, you could change your position. You know why? I'm a Yachid versus the Rab. It gives you a picture of a person. On my Lord, right before he passes away, he turns to his father and he asks for one favor. What's the favor? I want you to talk to your friends about me. Command your friends about me. What is he telling him? You're about to pass away. But your position among the Jewish people is unparalleled. It's unique, even though there was a tremendous disagreement and a tremendous argument. Before you leave the world, call in your chaver, call in and say, Icha bazun atachshit. My son, the best of the best. Arrange the best chavrusa, the best yeshiva, the best magid shir. Arrange the best situation. What we call today a little protectia, a little nepotism. Right? You have connections. You have a boy. You're about to die. Akavya says, Eini mefakat. I will not tell my friends anything about you. He tells his father, Shema avla matzasabi. You think I'm a bad kid? You found an avla, you found negativity in me. Lav, no. And here, we're astounded. You're about to pass away. Abyssal vadamkeit. Abyssal. Azakalt to the last moment. I understand discipline. You don't believe in liberal, progressive, open-mindedness. I do everything. No, you will. You're about to pass away. You're about to pass away. He's not going to have a father. He's going to be a Yosef. He asks you one favor. Call in your friends and say, take care of this boy. He's a great kid. He's wonderful. He's awesome. He's the next Rabbi Akiva. Well, Rabbi Akiva wasn't alive at the point, but you get the message. Amalei lav. Why? 4 words. Ma'asecha yikarvucha u'ma'asecha yirachakucha. Your own deeds will bring you close, and your own deeds will bring you far. And Akavya b'Mahalal passes on. And that's how the Mishnah ends. Perek 8. We're left with this. Are we left hanging cold and dry, or are we left with something else? What is he telling him? But I think now we can appreciate what he's telling him. Precisely because he's about to leave the world, he says no. Not because he doesn't care about his child, but because he cares too much about his child. Of course, Akavya b'Mahalal could have called in his chaverim, his colleagues, the G'dolei Hador, the greatest of the generation, and would say, this boy, I need you to treat him. I'm telling you, he's the best of the best. Give him the best opportunities, give him the best situations. What would have happened? He wouldn't have a father, but for the rest of his life, he would know that everything he has is due to what? Is due to his father. What about himself? My father, my father, my father. Because he wouldn't have a father, he had to give him a much deeper gift. What's the greatest gift Akiva ben Mahalal could give him? The gift of knowledge that you can author your own biography. You can forge your own destiny. You have all the resources and powers that you need in order to create a magnificent, wholesome, meaningful, beautiful, righteous, majestic, godly life for yourself. I believe in you. I believe in your power, in your ability, in your courage, in your prowess, in your determination, in your soul, in your fire. I believe in you. Because he will not have a father, he needed to give him that gift that will allow him to look into himself and discover everything he had to discover in order to be able to build his life. Not because I think you're a bad kid. Ma'asecha yikarvucha, u'ma'asecha yirachakucha. They say a Maisa that there was a chassid of the Baal Tanya who once came to him. It's a very interesting, it's a deep chassidish Maisa. He came to him once with a big taina. The Baal Tanya had a chaver. His name was Reb Chaikel Amdurer. Reb Chaikel of Amdur, Aleph Mem Dalet Vav Resh, Amdur, who was one of the students of the Mezritcher Maggid. Great tzaddik, but he had a very different shitta, different perspective in Chassidus than the Baal Tanya. Baal Tanya wanted very much Chachma Bina Das. Everybody should understand and integrate. And Reb Chaikel Amdura was more the idea that the tzaddik inspires the people with his emunah, with his kedusha. The people connect to the tzaddik, and that's how they get on fire. It was two shittas among the students of the Maggid of Mezrich. And it was a profound argument between them. What's the right derech? What's the right ma'alach of the Baal Shem Tov? So Reb Chaikel Amdura had a chassid, and he was a neighbor of the Chabad chassid of the Baal Tanya's chassid. So one day the chassid of Baal Tanya comes to his Rebbe, and he comes with a very serious complaint. What's the complaint? He says, in the morning, we both go to shul together. See, Reb Chaikel's chassid, he comes in and he's, it's a brent. Such a fire. He comes in, coming from the mikveh, and he's on fire. He opens the siddur and he starts davening, and he's so passionate, he's so enthusiastic. He goes with a minyan and he's mamish. He's on fire. Me, I come and I'm uninspired. I have to start learning. Chassidus. I'm trying to learn and understand till I get something. I don't feel anything. And I'm working and meditating and learning. And then something comes in, and by that time the minyan started already, and I feel like I lost everything. Until I find a little spark, it takes so long. Where did I go wrong? Where did we go wrong? He asks the Baal Tanya. So he, at Fadveikitzich, he puts his forehead in his hand and he thinks for a few moments. And then he picks up his head. He used to speak in a niggin, in a melody. So I'll say it in Yiddish, how he said it, and then I'll translate it. This chassid was saying that my neighbor, brennt. Baal Tanya says, with a niggin, he says, brennt, Chaikel brennt in hem. Und mir willen, als me soll allein brennen. He's on fire. Reb Chaikel is burning in him. Reb Chaikel brennt in him. He says, we want that you should burn on your own. So this chassid has a tremendous fire. He's connected to Reb Chaikel. Reb Chaikel is burning. He says, what I wanted is that you have to burn. For you to burn, you have to deal with your own animal soul. You have to deal with your own identity. You have to be able to find godliness. You have to be able to find your soul within yourself. Now, to get a log on fire takes a long time. If you pour kerosene, you pour the tzaddik's kerosene, boom, it's brent. But in order to make it yours, it takes a tremendous challenge. Shetahei shal heves oila me'eleha. Mevilin mizal alein bren. Each model has its time. and its place. Each home and every parent exercises all three. Every leader and every teacher exercises all three. Rabbi Akiva teaches us the model of loyalty, what a leader is capable of. Rabbi Eliezer teaches us the model of a Rebbe and a teacher. Rabbi Nechmyah teaches us the model of a leader who creates leaders. Or if you wish, the Gemara talks in Kiddushin Lamed Beis about Av Shemachal al Kvoidai, Nasi Shemachal al Kvoidai, Rav Shemachal al Kvoidai, Melech Shemachal al Kvoidai. We have to respect our parents, our teachers, our Nesiim, the leaders of communities, and Melachim, kings. Are they allowed to renounce their covet? Are they allowed to say, don't respect me, I'm fine? So the Gemara says a father is allowed to forgo his honor if he wishes. Kvoidei mach. Then with the others, there's a whole argument. L'maskana arav shemachal al kvoidei mach. He's allowed to forgo his honor. A nasi shemachal al kvoidei mach. Melech shemachal al kvoidei, ain't kvoidei mach. What's the difference? The king sets the course. The nation says yes. The teacher, the nasi or the rav, teaches, and the student repeats. The parent begins, and then you take it further. That's what a great parent is. And that's ultimately what a great teacher is, ultimately what a great leader is. Have a wonderful week.
Second thing is that Kiva Einfeld used to say over from some Seifel time, Chuvanim Shemai Yirashem Lamedchem, with that teacher. Not Boyu Bonim Shemai. When you Chuvanim, that's when I want Shemai. After you graduate and leave school, that's why I want to hear that you still leave school.
L'chubanim.
That's some Seifel. Third thing.
That's a shame.
Yeah, I heard from the Shem Dozer
B'Shem who?
the Oger of Rebbe the Ishtos. There's two questions. So give to the Shem Elokei Ruch the Chalbos Ish Al Eida Sheyetzi L'Fneim Sheyavu L'Fneim Sheyetzim Sheyavi. So first of all, this description give Elokei Ruch is the Chalbos is very rarely used.
Yeah.
Why the Meshach?
Yeah.
Who's it after here? Second of all, what's the double lashon? Sheyetzim L'Fneim Sheyavu L'Fneim Sheyetzim Sheyavi. So it says a leader can't be one leader to all the people. You have to know who. Because some people, you do your thing, they see that's enough. It's enough teaching. There's others that does a shlechen by the eye. How do you know? How do you know who has to be led by the nose and who is? You're just setting an example enough. What's Yivka Shema Keiruch the Chalbasa? It's like Rashi. Keiruch Chalbasa understands each person individually. So he says, Rabbi Shalom, you understand each person. I want you to be mafkid on the Ish Al Eida, who also understands each person individually, and he'll know who it's enough to schlep them, and you have to know who to pull, and to get them.
So where's the lashon that he just does and they follow? Which words? Alain. That's what the Eish Das writes.
I thought maybe Nechmyah was saying that the leader has to start doing this thing, and then Siyat L'Shmaya has to kick in.
Okay.
It can also be the Nechmyah's Pshat, not that he makes leaders, just that the leader does whatever he has to do. Then there's Siyat L'Shmaya, that everybody gets the same thought. Siyat L'Shmaya.
Okay. Pleasure to have you, as usual. 1 second, huh?
I was going to bring my copy for you to sign, but I failed to.
Yeah, that's the word. In Mishle. Kam ki yasken le yasem man. And that's the kvetch chanoich lenar al pi darkoi. If you're going to be saying, if you're megala in the nar darkoi, his derech, then gam ki yasken le yasem man. If you give him stama derech, fine, you forced it on him. You have to be megala in him darkoi. When you megala darkoi, his own derech, in other words, sein eigen and nigen, gam ki yaskan liyasam imam. Verstehst? You heard what he said. Paskas l'chu vonim, shimul liyiris Hashem alametchem. Some sofer. L'chu vonim. The ikid is when you go away. Shimuli. You should listen to me after you go away. L'chu vonim shimuli. You understand? The ikid is when you go away, not when you're here. L'chu vonim shimul liyiris Hashem alametchem. Mi yesh l'chafetz chayim. Some sofer zavart. Oh, Nechmyah. Nechmyah, Taka. Wow, okay. Miloshin Tanchumen. Beautiful. People once asked me, after Gimel Tammuz, why doesn't Chabad fall apart? Who holds it together? Why don't they appoint a new Rebbe to hold it together? So I explained to them the view of Rabbi Nechmyah. You understand? Nechmyah is Miloshin Menachem. Tanchumen, Nechama. This was the Rebbe's model of leadership, very much, even during his lifetime.
You can see what the shlichim.
The shluchim, yeah.
You can see what they're doing.
And I'll tell you an interesting thing. This whole shir, it's based on something I heard from the Rebbe, Shabbos B'Shalach, Tu B'Shvat, Tov Shemem Ches, 1988. Not Tu B'Shvat. Shabbos B'Shalach, Yud Aleph Shvat, Tov Shemem Ches. Later it's printed in Likkutei Sichos Chelik Lamed Aleph B'Shalach. But the Nekuda the Rebbe said then, it's a whole Sich in Chelik Lamed Aleph B'Shalach. There's three views. There's Gemara in Saita, yeah. It was Shabbos B'Shalach, Tov Shemem Ches. It was a few days before the Rebbetzin passed away. She passed away Chav Beis Shvat. This was Yud Aleph Shvat. And a few days later, on Tu B'Shvat, the Rebbe held the Farbrengen, the last weekday Farbrengen. And during the Farbrengen, he said that it came the time for people to stop asking him so many questions, because all the Sichos and the Maimarim from all the years of all the Rebbes give people the power to be able to make their own decisions. And in many things the Torah already says, if it comes to medicine, v'rapa, you go to the doctor or two doctors. If there's a disagreement, you go to three and you follow the majority. It comes to business issues, he says, katzas yididim evinim, you go to friends who are experts, etc. Issues of halacha, obviously, you go to rabbanim and so forth. So this was like a very powerful farbrengen then, which in many ways was sad, because the Rebbe said there's simply no time now for addressing everything. A few days later, the Rebbetzin passed away, and the Rebbe repeated this over the next few years. And literally a few days before, he said this sikha about the different views. So I think it gives a lot of perspective what leadership is. You wanted to ask something?
I just wanted to tell you that it was rich. It was a lot of stuff. I wrote down for me to think about.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just want to say,
Thank you. It's a lot of work, yeah.